Good morning, everyone. Jodie Siemens here from Taking Perspective. This week's webinar is on what is the importance of creating boundaries. Okay, so what we are going to discuss this week is, I can't seem to get rid of that bottom bar for some reason. So what we're going to discuss this week is why are boundaries important, what happens when you set boundaries, and how to actually set some boundaries. Okay, so why are boundaries important? So we can define boundaries as what's okay and what's not okay for you on a personal level. It'll be different for everyone. So boundaries are about respecting yourself and the other person or persons that you are dealing with on a one-to-one basis. Because without boundaries, we tend to not have healthy lines in relationships. And that doesn't mean just personal relationships, it also means working relationships and just relationships in general. So without the boundaries in place, these lines tend to become blurred, and often you can put yourself in a position where you might be taking the responsibility on for someone else's issues, or, you know, they keep stepping over the boundary and expecting you to do things for them. And things like that. So it's really about creating boundaries, being able to say no, stop being a people pleaser, and just be confident in yourself and accept that it's okay to say no. Okay, so when we have a clear set of boundaries, we are able to display a comparison in our relationships on a new level. So it's not just about, as I said, about your personal relationships, it's also about your co-workers, your relationships, even with your mechanic. You know, they can take advantage of us, we all know that, or everyone we interact with just generally in day-to-day life. So setting boundaries is about prioritizing your needs. There seems to be a spelling issue there. Setting boundaries is about prioritizing your needs. It's about practicing self-care. It's about staying true to yourself and not feeling guilty about it. So setting boundaries can ensure that relationships can be mutual, respectful, appropriate for both parties, and also caring. So each time you break your boundaries in order to ensure someone else likes you, you end up liking yourself much less. Brianna Weist. That quote is from. I'll just close my box there. I think it's in the way. So what happens when we set boundaries? Boundaries are a way to take care of ourselves. When we set boundaries, we find ourselves to be less angry and we're less resentful around other people because our own needs are getting met. So boundaries make our expectations clear, so others know what to expect from us and they know how to treat us also, and vice versa. It's a two-way street. So boundaries are the foundation for happy and healthy relationships. Often we assume that people will respect our boundaries because we were brought up and taught that it's acceptable by our family and or our culture. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. And although you can choose who you interact with in your personal life, it's not always so easy to choose in other environments such as extended family, your work environment, and your community. So it's often it is our family that oversteps the boundary marks. You know, they tend to take advantage of us in certain ways. And it's really about just making sure in every aspect of your personal and professional life that you have these boundaries in place. So here I've got 6 benefits of setting boundaries are: you display more compassion, you develop a greater level of assertiveness, your own needs become met, you find yourself less angry, and there's less resentment towards others because your needs are being met. You have a level of feeling at peace, you feel safe, and your time and energy to do things feels like it's sort of extended in a way, because you're able to do things that feed your own body, mind, and spirit, and really help you on an inner level personally, because you are saying, you know, potentially no to things that you don't want to do so that you can do the things that you want to do. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. Pentress Hemphill. That's a good one. I like that. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. So how do we go about setting boundaries? We know that we need to establish boundaries because it helps with our emotional health, our psychological health, and our physical boundaries in relationships, so that we can feel respected and feel safe at all times. So being able to set boundaries is about having the courage, to love ourselves. So self-acceptance is a big one there, having that deeper understanding of self-acceptance and that risk of disappointing others, so people pleasing. So you should not base your own worthiness on other people's opinions at all. We believe that deep down, we need to believe that deep down we are enough, and that when we're in a position to say enough is enough, we can and we will. So this one here is, you need to identify your limits within relationships first. And this is the first step of maintaining healthy boundaries. So what's acceptable behavior within a relationship? And as I was saying, this isn't just about personal relationships. This is about co-workers, family, extended family, just whoever the relationship is. It's a one-to-one with whomever you're interacting with in your life. So the first step is maintaining healthy boundaries. What is an acceptable boundary for you, behavior within that particular relationship? The second step is to stick to those boundaries and to have a plan if someone crosses those limits. Okay, so I have a few questions that you can go through and ask yourself when a situation arises. So do you know your rights in a relationship? First one, do you know to feel safe in the relationship, to have your privacy and boundaries that you have created respected, to be heard and listened to? That's a big one, to be heard and listened to. The biggest part of communication is not actual talking, it's listening. It's 80% listening. So also to feel validated when you do talk. That's really important, to have that acknowledgement. To be appreciated and valued, to be respected when the answer is no and it means no. To have your needs met, and to be treated respectfully in the absence of emotional, physical, and verbal abuse. So these are the questions that you can go to in the background for yourself in regards to your relationships that you have and understanding your rights within relationships. So my final thoughts here are: setting boundaries can create respect for yourself and the people in your life. Setting a clear boundary sends a message to yourself and to others that you have a strong sense of self-awareness and self-respect. The more clearly you communicate your boundaries without ego, the more you can remain generous to others and simultaneously true to yourself, creating authenticity. Okay, so that's the end of today's webinar. It was a quick one there Just want to mention my free ebook that I've got floating around at the moment. I will pop the link in the comments underneath. An ebook that gives you insight into the inaccurate assumptions that we have placed on what it means to be vulnerable. The ebook is about the 4 truths about vulnerability. It's a free ebook, so jump on that and enjoy the read. Next one here is a Monday at 10 a.m. Australian, Melbourne, Eastern Standard Time. I have a special edition webinar going on, why vulnerability is an important part of being human. This is also free, so do register if you can't make it. It's at 10 a.m. Monday morning, Monday the 4th of July, and you'll receive a copy of that. It does also come with a small workbook. The webinar touches on what, due to our lives' experience and pain and struggle, the shame that not being enough, that we have shut down parts of ourselves, and these parts are the parts that we need to keep open for vulnerability. So let's start to reopen those parts. Vulnerability is a very important part of being human and understanding ourselves on a deeper level so that we can have better relationships with those who we love and those who surround us. And next week's webinar will be back at 9 a.m. So that's Friday, the 8th of July. Next week's webinar, how do we become our courageous selves? So feel free to also follow the link and register for that. All the 3 links, so the link for the ebook, the special edition webinar on Monday, why vulnerability is an important part of being human, and next week's webinar you will find in the comments after I finish this webinar now. Okay, guys, thank you for joining me. You can find me on Anchor, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. All the socials are covered. And that is it for today. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to sharing more information with you. This is Jodie Siemens from Taking Perspective.